Don't get me started on Fibonacci numbers.
Well, I'll get you started and kick off the session because I don't know anything about what you just said. So we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. My name is Gina Curcio. I am a corporate partnership account manager here at UAGC and host for this session, the impact of the Math Hero Math Avatar activity on algebra student success. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, just simply click Show Captions button at the bottom of the Zoom window. Now I'm pleased to introduce to you Holly Ourso, and it's my pleasure to introduce her to you today. Professor Ourso is known for innovative teaching, award-winning course revision, inspired leadership, effective retention projects, partnering with student advisors, creating engaging videos, and leading student-centered classes. She's been nominated for Forward Thinking and Impact and won more than one award for inspired teaching. She is a 5-time University Fellow Program grant recipient for her research because she demonstrates scalable, high-impact practices, and she'll describe her most recent brainchild for you today. So let's welcome Professor Holly Ourso. The floor is yours.
Hi. Hi, I want to say thank you to all the familiar faces, Linda, Andre, Jessica, and a couple of people I don't know. I'm so happy to see you here. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my presentation. Okay, I'm going to hope that's a yes. I'm here today to tell you about the Math Avatar Math Hero 2-part activity. This retention initiative has been proven to be effective, and from the time since I wrote this proposal to speak here at TLC, we've gotten some new information that was so exciting that about a week ago, I texted family and friends and said, my research has been proven to be effective, and I'm going to share with you a simple, inclusive, effective practice that can be put into any class. I did it in a math class, but it's not limited to that. In fact, I'm going to have to change the name of this presentation to Effective Math Hero Intervention. This effective math intervention does everything we'd want it to do. Fewer students drop when the math intervention is in the class. And of the students who stay, more students succeed. So we have lower drop rates, higher pass rates, and even more A grades are earned. As an overall group, students did better. But if I drill down to the particular groups with the help of Tracy Borman and the team from the Office of Institutional Effectiveness here at the University of Arizona Global Campus, I can see that women do better, even better, and persons of color do even better. So I can see that if I wanted to help a particular group, every group is doing better, but specific groups are doing even better than that. And that is really exciting. When I got the report, it said that we recommend, given these promising results, that instructors expand the use of this teaching strategy into more courses because it significantly improves student grades in Math 222. That's our intermediate algebra class. And in fact, we'll be adding it to a new course later this month, the introductory statistics course. Well, where does one come up with an idea like a Math Hero Math Avatar project? Well, I saw a lecture called The Frodos and Seeleys of Mathematics, in which Professor Michael Dorf gave some sort of a new way of looking at things. And together with around that time, I was reading the book Mathematics for Human Flourishing by the awesome Dr. Francis Su. And I learned about more about the idea of ethnomathematics. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I created a 3-minute video that students see, and I'm going to share that with you now. Share the screen again. In this class, you will study not only how math is used in everyday life, but you'll also meet some professionals who use math on the job. In a recent MAA invited address, Michael Dorf, the Mathematical Association of America past president,
stated in his address, "Who are the Frodos and Seeleys of mathematics?" He stated that professionals who use math should be termed mathematicians. That term shouldn't be reserved for research scientists. According to Professor Dorff, who attempted to address the question, who should be in the modern-day Hall of Fame of mathematicians, a lot of times people have this idea that a mathematician is someone who is a mathematical genius. Rather than this being a compliment, this can serve as a way to distance an individual from the class of mathematicians. That is, to see professionals who use math on the job as someone out there or over there, and not someone like me. Math was created by humans needing to solve problems. It has been called the art of the shortcut. Ethnomathematics is the study of how cultures mathematize, or regard or treat, a subject or problem in mathematical terms. Professor Linda Ferruto is the founding director of the first ethnomathematics program in the world. I read about this adventurous University of Hawaii professor in Mathematics for Human Flourishing, which states that mathematical explorers have been part of every civilization in every corner of the earth. Professor Ferruto sees the importance of drawing a straight line from the mathematical explorers and her students' cultural history to the mathematical identity she'd like her students to embrace. Study of ethnomathematics reminds students of their mathematical history, including that those who were able to do math and science in favor of their relatives and friends supported their group's survival. Often, if a person never sees a mathematician who resembles them, they feel like mathematicians are somebody else, someone over there, and not someone like them. I know I enjoyed a production of the Tom Stoppard play Arcadia, partly because a female character with mathematical gifts featured in the play. Sometimes, when the math and engineering is done behind the scenes, people are slow to give credit to those doing the math. In the 1960s, astronauts Alan Shepard, John Glenn, and others absorbed the accolades for being the first in space. But who did the calculations? A couple of American women of color. Katherine Johnson did trajectory analysis for Alan Shepard's mission in 1961 and John Glenn's mission in 1962. Her colleague, Mary Jackson, was a successful NASA engineer and an advocate for women and minorities in the field. Some of her math equations were used in a lecture series called Notes on Space Technology. I suggest you select a math avatar, someone you can relate to who's using math at work. One person might select a mathematician because they worked on environmental issues or because of their innovative approach to problem solving. When picking your mathematician, ask yourself, who is a mathematician and why does that matter to me? With your math avatar in your back pocket, you're ready to begin.
So this is the first thing that students see in the class. This was play tested with over 2,500 University of Arizona Global Campus students, and it was done in an online classroom. But this idea could be used in a blended or in-person classroom as well, as we'll see in a little bit. So the student sees the ethnomathematics lecture, and then the student selects one of those math heroes to be their math hero or guide or inspiration during the course. It's sometimes called the Math Avatar Project because in the classroom, there's a tiny picture or avatar of the student, which could be a drawing or a photograph. And some students will replace their avatar in the class with a picture of their math hero. So I feel like if students do that, they further identify with the math hero. And it always is moving for me when a student does that. And that's how the class begins. We've got the ethnomathematic lecture, we've got the student selecting a math hero, and then probably reading a little bit about other students' math heroes. And I give a selection to choose from, but students aren't limited to the 30 or so avatars in the classroom, which each have a couple of links so you can learn more about them quickly and conveniently. Instead, as long as someone has changed people's lives using mathematics, for the better, that person can be a math hero. And then the student carries that math hero with them throughout the class. It's sort of like a little helper on the student's shoulder, whispering good ideas and offering other perspectives in their ear. And that gives the student a completely different way to look at some of the interesting things that they're learning about in the class, some of the real life applications, some of the homeworks they can try repeatedly, and the quizzes they can try a couple of times and their best score is taken. They get to have this other perspective. And then in the final week of the class, they choose a problem in their personal life or their work life, a real problem, and they resolve it from their math hero's perspective. So that is how it works. It's a two-part activity. Choose the math hero, carry it with you through the session. Actually, if you want to change your math hero at the end of class because you've got a new one, that's okay. And it's really exciting to see what students say. So this part of the presentation is really what the students say. When I grade these journals, I don't know about you, but a lot of professors find that grading is not their favorite thing to do, part of the job. But grading these journals, they read like love letters to the experience of selecting a math hero and learning in the class. So in my comments to them, I might say something like this. I enjoyed reading about how you related to Rene Descartes and how you might use Descartes' approach to help a candy store calculate revenue. Or I enjoyed reading about how you would use Florence Nightingale's approach to graphically represent simplified complex information, making it more persuasive to decision makers. Or I enjoyed how you used Hypatia of Alexandria's approach to help with the cafe layout. And when students talk about these different math heroes, they go beyond using the math hero's perspective to resolve their problem. They're pretty specific about that in most cases, but they go beyond that. I'd like to give you an example of that. So, for example, one student talked about how they might use Ada Lovelace's approach to develop a new product that blends technical features with a user-friendly design. In the student's own words, I am currently facing a problem at work where we must develop a new product that blends technical features with a user-friendly design to streamline local tool cross-reference software. This project seems challenging because it requires balancing creativity with logical structure. If Ada Lovelace were here with me, she would tackle this problem by combining analytical thought with imaginative ideas. Lovelace's hard work and curiosity were key to her success. I imagine her asking questions like, how can we improve our users' experience? Or what different ways can our product be used? And how can we support these users? Her thinking would inspire our team to consider different viewpoints and find well-rounded solutions. Moreover, Lovelace's story teaches us that pushing through difficulties is important. Even though she made significant contributions, she faced many obstacles as a woman in a male-dominated field. Time and time again, the student didn't just say, oh, I'd use their strategy to solve the problem and that was the end. They got into, like in that last phrase, the math hero's philosophy and talked about obstacles that the math hero overcame, saying, like Ada Lovelace surmounted those obstacles, I have obstacles like that to success. Or one student even said, my math hero faced racism and sexism and had those obstacles, and I'm glad that I have more choices today, more options than my math hero did. A few more of the kinds of problems the students might be solving. The students might use Carl Friedrich Gauss's approach to work challenges, including developing a clear framework for communication and perhaps standardizing reporting methods. The student might use their favorite mathematician Marie-Sophie Germain's approach in a challenge they face in persisting in continuing learning and not allowing other people's ideas to limit them. A person might use Gauss's approach to prioritize multiple demanding projects. I wrote to the student in my comments, I like your idea inspired by Gauss to use a weighted system to prioritize tasks, and I am impressed. So the student came up with a specific, detailed idea inspired by the math student. Would the student have ever had access to that idea, which of course is the student's idea, without this project? Another student wrote, and this one warms my heart because I was the child of an adult who went back to school as a single parent back when I was 7 and my sister was only 6. My mother did exactly that. And she said, this student said, they might use Galois' approach to parental time management for single moms. Again, in the student's own words, what draws me to Galois more than just his genius is the emotional weight of his story. Rejected, misunderstood, and largely ignored in his time, Galois handed his work to legends like Cauchy and Fourier, only for it to be lost or dismissed. Yet he didn't give up. He didn't give up. Many students expressed that seeing their learning about these math heroes and the things that they persisted through inspired that student not to give up. Again, in the student's own words, when I think about how Galois would help me today, I imagine he'd look at a life problem like juggling school, work, and stress and do what he did best, restructure it. He would find patterns in the chaos, breaking things into smaller groups and apply order. More than anything, he'd remind me not to wait for permission to believe in my ideas. The students find problem solving from the math hero's perspective profound and motivating. Indeed, the existence of a relatable math hero means many more students feel they're in the game, which may be why the scores go up and why more students pass. And then adopting to the mindset of their math hero, like you've just heard these examples, stepping into that hero's shoes to solve a problem can be a magical moment. It's not just a tool the student can use to pass this class or even to earn a college degree. It's a tool a student can use forever. And imagine a student comes in and in their English class, they have an English hero. And in their science class, they have a science hero. And in their philosophy class, they have a philosophy hero. Even in those early classes where they're just learning how to navigate being a college student, they have a college student hero who's a graduate of the university they're attending and they can be inspired by. They could have a veritable council of Sheldons, right? And have several different people in mind when they have a situation or a challenge to look at it from all of these different perspectives. And wouldn't that be amazing? Engaging in a successful critical thinking experience can upgrade a person's view of their own problem-solving capabilities. It can increase confidence, and students can draw on this additional perspective or perspectives and perhaps increase confidence throughout their careers. Can anyone guess who our students' favorite math hero is? I won't leave you in suspense. Perhaps because it is in the ethnomathematics video, Katherine Johnson, who calculated the flight path for America's first crewed space mission and moon landing, is our student's favorite math hero. Here, she's at her desk at NASA Langley Research Center with a globe or celestial training device. And she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor, Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Wouldn't it be great to have that kind of smarts and learning and experience on your side when you have a tough problem to resolve? What a great tool. Let's learn about the impact of the Math Hero intervention. It's effective. Fewer students drop. You can see that or I will describe what's on the screen. The control group, which ran from July of 2024 to January of 2025, contained over 1,300 students, and 93% of them passed, 4.5% failed, and 2.5% dropped. In the intervention, though, we replaced the control assignments. So in the introduction, students were asked to do something else, not pick a math hero. And in the final week of the class, students were asked to write a journal about the material in the class, not being directed to think from someone else's perspective. That intervention, where we put the Math Hero two-part activity in, we ran that from the end of January to the beginning of July, and there were over 1,200 students, or over 1,500 students total. So the pass rate went up to 95%, and the fail rate went down from 4.5 to 2.8%. Further, the drop rate went from 2.5% to 1.9%. And more students earn A grades. Check out that tall blue bar of the control group. More A grades were earned by students in the control group. I had the idea that people get into the class, they take one look at the Math Hero activity, and they see, wow, these are a few ways math is useful. they see a few ways that math is useful. They consider those. And so if a student might have the idea in their head, well, what's this ever used for? Instead, they have an answer for that. There's an answer for what is it ever used for. They can think of those things off the top of their head. And then if they get stuck, they may be as inspired by the dedication and grit, which is much more important in a hard class considered tougher, like algebra, or the class we're going to put it in statistics, is important, that the student is, what I'm trying to say is that what really matters is that the student is able to stick with it more. And I think when a student dedicates themselves more, I don't think the student thinks, oh, the class is easier because the Math Hero project is in it. It's not. None of the assignments that are graded are any easier. But I think that what this does is it's an inclusive way and an inexpensive, easy to implement way to raise the student's self-efficacy. And once the student has that self-efficacy, yes, I can succeed. The student dedicates themselves to it at a greater level and finds a way to deal with the time management we all encounter and is able to not only succeed, but excel. How would you scale this effective Math Hero intervention? Start with some math heroes. So let's translate that over. Suppose we were doing this for English. Think of some people who are English heroes that could inspire your students. Think of a diverse group like the diverse group called out by Dr. Michael Dorf in the Frodos and Seeleys of Mathematics lectures. Make it some people from the past, some people who are working currently. And then you put that into the beginning of the class, or you could start tomorrow. But if you have a new class, I'd recommend starting with the very first day, the very first interaction. And this can work in an in-person class as well. I had the idea that we could make like a paper plate with a math hero or math avatar picture on it on the front and a QR code or a summary of what this person is known for on the back. And if this were done in an in-person class, the person could hold that up in front of their face as they present, further identifying with their math hero. And then you want to find a way for the student to reflect, which could be a journal entry. It could be, and the journals, by the way, are graded as a journal and not with the strictness of a paper. But because I encourage students to use sources and cite sources throughout the class, students do usually cite one or two sources in their Math Hero journal at the end of the class. Another way to do it, especially in an in-person class, would be an oral presentation about their Math Hero, so describing how they would solve the problem they have from their Math Hero's perspective. And I don't have time to go into this in full detail, so there are more details about this at the site that will be thoughtfully put in to the chat by my session host, Gina, who has been so helpful. You probably know that the Wright brothers famously were the first to be able to create a situation where they could have flight. They could experience flight. They weren't the only player in the game. There were a lot of other people looking into this, and compared to them, they were definitely the underdog. Others had more formal degrees, whereas the Wright brothers didn't have even a college degree between them. They had a lot of financial backing. The Wright brothers only had the slender profits from their bicycle shop. And they had all of the institutional support. But the Wright brothers gathered their information writing to the Smithsonian and found out what they were doing, found out their approach. And they rejected the favorites' idea that flight would be like steering a ship, that the ship had to be stable so it didn't tip into the water. The Wright brothers thought, no, that's the wrong way to do it. And they got a new paradigm. This was a tough problem. They'd never solved this problem before. Indeed, no one had. But in 1900, when they began working on it in earnest, they did more trials that 1 year than their competitors had done in the whole time they'd been researching it. Those iterations, they moved their operation to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, which has the strongest gusts of wind in the United States. And they moved it to the soft sand dune beaches. So their gliders, it started out without an engine, could take off and then just lightly glide down. They said, look, we don't want to think of this as being a ship. We want to think of it as a bicycle. Riding a bicycle is inherently unsteady, but the rider works out how to keep the bike steady on their own soon enough. And as they did iteration after iteration, they got closer and closer. I think when students come into the class, it's a lot like it can seem like an insurmountable task. The student may feel that others feel better prepared. And it can be something where the student doubts their ability to succeed. But by learning about the math hero and being inspired, the class doesn't get any harder, doesn't get any easier, but their abilities grow and their perception of that grows. And they have that self-efficacy where they feel, I can succeed. I can be someone who does this. And then as they're guided through, with their math hero whispering into their ear, they get a new paradigm, like the Wright brothers didn't use the old tired paradigm of the ship, but shifted to the new, more nimble paradigm of the bicycle. And then they come into the right place at the right time. The Wright brothers' successful flight, I believe it was in 1903 for 59 seconds, was buoyed by those strong gusts of wind in Kitty Hawk. And when the Math Hero Math Avatar project is included in your classroom, it can buoy the student, pushing them forward, elevating their progress, a literal wind beneath their wings. I'm looking through the chat and loving all the reactions I've gotten. Yes, Alexa, you're right. There were also lower numbers receiving D's, F's, and W's. More students stayed in the class, and that's the incredible thing. Thank you, Marie. Knowledge and new perspectives spark novel ideas and solutions, teaching students more than math. You caught me, Marie. Stephanie, this always moves me, this project. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Let's explore Diana's idea. Diana says, Holly, that was amazing. Thank you. You could scale this for other classes by building a custom AI to help students pick their hero based on their subject. There's an idea where students would get a list of ideas to begin with. I am open to any questions that anyone might have. It's been such a pleasure seeing each of you. Thank you for participating with me in this experience and learning more about how to change our students' lives.
I know, if I may just, where are there other resources? You listed a bunch of links in here for folks to see. Are there other resources and ways for them to bring this to the classroom? And while she's doing that, please don't forget to click on that survey link for the session that Anne-Marie put in there. Please go ahead and click in there and let us know what you think.
Here is the link to here's the page I set up. I know that it was put into the link and the link was put into the chat. And when the recording of this comes out, I will attach it at the conference presentation section. And this allows you to learn a little bit about this. Remember, you can always reach out to me through LinkedIn.
And put her link in the chat as well. So go ahead and scroll up in case you missed it.
I want to thank those who attended: Anne-Marie, Amy, Molly Pooler, Dr. Ted Ellis, Alexa Dunn, Linda Moreno. So happy to see all of you, Diana.
Thank you, Holly, for this presentation. I'm not a math person, so when I saw that I was hosting this, I kind of like that that sweat when you get as a student that you don't know what you're doing happened. But this was so much more than I could ever even imagine. And I think you kicked it off by saying I should have called this not just math. And I look forward to sharing the information that I learned today in a mentoring group that I have, and letting those ladies find their shiro or their hero to guide them through and what they do in life, not just math. So personally, thank you for everything. Really appreciate it. And again, please, if you feel so inclined, to nominate this presentation for conference awards and share your feedback with everyone. I'm not sure which
Gina,
link
can we
asked
capture
for,
the
Amy.
chat?
Okay.
Gina, can we capture the chat so that I can read that over later?
That's where I'm going to go, Anne Marie.
Perfect.
But we'll definitely get some screenshots before we close out.
Sounds
And
wonderful.
yeah,
I'll just hang out.
I'll attach more of these, the links again, here for you folks.
Oh, Amy's asking for the link.
Yeah, I'm just gonna copy all the links and put them all in one chat note for all of you if you want to take a screenshot.
Oh, I love that idea. Okay, I'm not sure if it was the survey link or if it was
yep.
the other link. So I'm going to put both of them down here.
Okay, yeah.
Here we go.
Thanks, Holly. I'll go ahead and save this chat. And thank you, Diana. Yes, I will save this chat so you'll be able to look it over later. I'll send that to you.
Wonderful, Amy.
And then,
Yeah, keep me posted on the card site. There's a list of the classes that include a Math Hero activity or whatever, fill in the blank hero, create your own hero. So I would love to expand that list so that it is current.